we walk into school with this idea of what we're going to do inside of a school. So we have these preconceived ideas of like, hey, this is where I'm going to learn a little bit of math if I have to. This is where I'm going to write when someone makes me. This is when we're going to do all of these little tests and remember all these little facts. And these preconceived notions of what school is, I mean, we have them as a society, we have them as individuals, but if you start to really peel back, like, why is school a thing? Why are we here? It stops making quite so much sense, and it stops being quite so obvious what we should be doing during the school day if it's more important to have successful thinkers, successful people who are confident in their abilities. What we do in schools doesn't always make that happen. Now, a lot of what happens in schools has to do with like what the standardized test dictates. It has to do with what the state laws are, because so much of what a teacher's day is basically in law. You have to do this, you must do this, you must do this. And those things are important, those things are good, but because the law kind of structures it for you, you can't have the freedom to do it in a way that might make more sense. You have to do it in the way that you have to do it. And it's kind of a difficult thing to balance because there's all of these mandates, there's all of these things that, a helpful state legislature, all students should have this. Let's pass a law. Now all students will have that. But at the same time, teachers have to pick that up and fit that in a way that doesn't necessarily make sense. We could take the same number of things, the same number of goals, and say, how do we get to this endpoint in a way that makes sense using our strengths, looking at the developmental age of things and fitting it together based on what our community wants? But that would be breaking law because the law says it has to be this way, it has to do it that way, and there's just no good way to get around that. Anyway, so if you look at what we do in a school, and if we could get rid of some of the you have to do it this ways, then all of a sudden there's this freedom, and then there's this joyful like, hey, I love teaching this one thing, and the kids need that one thing. I can do a better job at it. Coming at it from this one direction. We can go deep instead of shallow and wide. I would love to start thinking like that and stop saying, okay, here's what school has been for us, here's what way my parents think about it, here's what the way we're used to school being, and start thinking about, hey, here's what could be. Someone's got to show what's possible in a classroom. Someone's got to show this is what all schools could look like. Instead of here's this the way it always is. It used to work. Grades were this great innovation 150 years ago, maybe, probably more, 200 years ago. I mean, that was a great way to communicate 200 years ago. But we're still doing it because that's just institutional inertia. We can't break away. But there are such better ways to do things now, and we have so many better tools that we could be using more fully if we weren't locked in on this one way of doing it. So innovative arts class, we're breaking the mold in lots of different ways, and I'm thinking it through and describing it to kids in ways that has to do with what makes sense. Hey, why are we doing this thing? Here's what's happening inside your brain. The connections in your brain are doing this. And being able to explain that is really freeing. Instead of, we have to do it this way because it's the law. I'm so excited to develop a vision for what could be in our schools. And I'm really looking forward to having a community kind of grow around that. And hopefully you're enjoying some of these videos and we can make that happen.